Hi kids. How's everybody doing?
Good.
My name's Tony Placido. You won't see a lot of me tonight. Well, I'll be here, but I'm just not the host tonight. But welcome to Poets and Pints number 88. And if I'm doing my math correctly, that means this time next year will be show number 100. So I'm very excited. I haven't been here for all 100, but that's okay. But tonight we have a very special show, but I'm going to let our special guest host announce what's going on. Please welcome Katie Vagnino.
Thanks, Tony. This is an exciting night. Tonight we are featuring winners from a writing contest that the St. Paul Almanac held earlier this year. It was the first time we had done this contest. It was called the Breakthrough Writing Contest, and we accepted work in 3 genres: fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. And I was fortunate enough to get to judge the poetry entries. And because we had so many entries and so many good entries that in the other categories we just awarded first, second, and third place. In poetry, we decided to go to 5th place because there's just like so many entries and so many strong poems. So it was really, really cool. I got to read some amazing stuff, and it was a very hard task to pick my top 5 poems. But those 5 poets are here with us tonight, and that's very exciting. Interestingly, the contest was open to everyone. You didn't have to be from St. Paul or from Minnesota. So we did get some entries from other places, but the winners were all like fairly local, interestingly. I swear I wasn't biased. But I'm really excited to hear them read tonight. They are each hopefully going to read their winning poem and then some other things. And I know several of them also brought books that they are selling. So if you're interested, there are some books on display on that back table. And I'm not sure what they cost, but I'm sure the poets will be happy to sell you. I also just want to say that, if you're not familiar with St. Paul Almanac, they are a literary nonprofit based here in the Twin Cities, not just St. Paul, but they publish local writers and the work of local artists. I encourage you to check out their website, stpaulalmanac.org. Follow them on social media. We actually are putting out a new edition of the Almanac. We haven't done one since COVID, but new book. Yes, it's very exciting. It's coming out October 20th, and we're going to have a launch party at CHS Field. It's free to attend. We'll be selling the book. Well, it's not on the baseball field. They have sort of an indoor event space, but it is right there, right by. You can see the baseball field. So that's on October 20th. So save the date and check out the Almanac. Follow their socials for more information about that. Because the work of writers like those here today. I don't know. Have any of you been published in the Almanac before? Okay, we got some Almanac people who've been published in there. That's awesome. So you already know. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a nice turnout for that book launch on October 20th. It's a great organization. Encourage you to check it out. The organization that hosts this event, also great. This is put on by Cracked Walnut. They are part of the League of Minnesota Poets. That's also a great organization to follow and support. This reading happens every month on the 3rd Wednesday, I believe. Always free, always great poetry to be heard. And typically there is an open mic in addition to the featured readers. Tonight, I do have the sign up out. It's here on this table here. I'm not sure how many people we're going to have time for because we're going to just feature the readers, and we have 5 of them. So we'll see what we have time for. But if we have time, feel free to sign up, and I will try to fit you in at the end. So I want to kick things off. I'm going to read a short poem that was published in the St. Paul Almanac. And then I'm going to introduce our first reader of the night. So this poem was in the 2019 Almanac, and it's called How to Explain Death to Your Daughter. Tell her on a cloudless afternoon, a Sunday in November, maybe, after the leaves have fallen and the ground's first hard freeze, or during spring's first inkling, before the buds or birds are back. When she asks questions that are impossible to answer, touch the top of her perfect head and say that death is necessary, as natural as sugar dissolving in a glass of lemonade, leaving its essence to linger. Thanks. Okay, so first up, we have Benj Vardigan. Benj Vardigan lives in Minneapolis and also calls Michigan's two peninsulas home. His poems have appeared in the San Francisco Bay Guardian, 14 Hills, Washington Square Review, The Lifted Brow, and more. Please welcome Benj.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Special thanks to Tony and Katie for putting this on, and to my fellow poets who I'm excited to share the stage with tonight.
We're going to do a mic adjustment here so we can hear you.
Thank you. Is that better?
Yes.
Thanks. So the poem that I have in the St. Paul Almanac is actually part of a series that's been in the very slow making for about 15 years. It all revolves around my grandfather's cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And since a lot of the themes and images tend to recur and come in and out of the different poems, I thought it'd be nice tonight to read some other ones from that collection. And in starting this collection, I've been inspired by the poets Marie Howe, Tony Hoagland, and David Berman, and I dedicate all of the poems to my grandpa and to my sister. The Deer at Dusk. Evenings bring 3 or 4 to the edge of the receding lake, their ears and tails flicking. Years ago, he tracked them out in woods and snow, cooked the meat with onions and potatoes in stews, to eat slowly over a long string of winter dusks. Soon now the deer are in the yard, nosing the cracked gourds we toss from the deck to keep them coming back. We throw whatever we can out there, strew the lawn with apples and buckets of dried corn. On good dusks, he spots them first and wheels up to the window. Tonight, counting 8, we start to think they're looking out for him. You hear about people getting this kind of idea. This kind of idea is in our heads. Deep on into December now, and there is no digging out. With the trees all sticks and the lake ice, the sun goes at 4:30 with the day's coffee still pulsing in us. Into the yard on quiet hooves like clockwork they come, and we raise the bed for a better look. What's going on here, we figure, is beyond us. There was an era when he mounted antlers on a cabin wall and etched their stats in the wood. Now he'd rather see them move, just watch them coming near. In the middle of the nights, we talk of signs and voices at work. We talk about the deer. We talk about the deer to keep them coming back. Remiss. Inside the cabin, neglect has made an ant farm of the sugar bag, turned the dice cups into homes for the husks of potato bugs and mouse skeletons. Unattended, the place has rattled its bones. Tracing orange surveyor ribbons and holding a plat map, I track the property lines, stopping short of a charred stump ringed with rocks. Who's been around? Beer cans flash in the grass where something has become of leave no trace. All this new fodder for the worries I till from afar. That the river runs weaker, the chimney lists, the ash borer digs in on the 30 acres now in my name. Unscrewing light fixtures in the last days of fall, I shake out bugs like ashes from a tray. I think of winter, nowhere near to check on things. I picture ice in the pipes, the roof getting wet. Down at the river, cigarette wrappers and fishing line mar the rocks. Up and down the banks, I pick up this mess, filling the pockets of your quilted flannel while the current scores my work. Back up to the cabin, a hand on the thin branch rail. I hold this sound as I hang the shirt on the hook where I think you left it. I carry the river's sound even over the small plains din. Back in the city, the smell of wood smoke on my clothes. Still I hold that sound, and tonight in a dream, I will tape record the river. So this next one is one from the contest. I have to quickly thank KateLynn for alerting me to the contest and for always encouraging me to type. Between the stations, the presets are nonsense, directions to nowhere. Coaxing the dial across the notches we nuance, tune our ears to any clear scrap in the static. On country roads, we seek the scrutable sounds of a ball game, some stationed to hold across time zones and state lines, under trestles or through shallows. Broadcast to carry us like a flare into center field, a play-by-play phrase you favor. Your phase now spent between the signals, in the winding, flickering interim where our hope hangs, like a flannel from a nail, a shirt we lived in. We were in for it. This long drive were our favorite song. If we could catch just a measure of it, steer the car and slow the oar as we head towards shore. The last one is also from that series, but it's a little newer. In fact, I typed it on my typewriter.
You have a real
Wasn't able
typewriter?
to- It's a Smith Corona. One of the best.
It is
It's called The Water's Meat. Part 1. Iron Mountain, Rhinelander, Nobbinway, Water's Meat. Coming in, we skim these towns, watch them slowly steel themselves, the lakes with their rinds to weather the scar and gout of augers, ice skates, snowmobiles. The lakes with all their lovable names: Lois Lake, Dinner Lake, Sucker Lake, and the best one, Imp. Shanties dot their surfaces, the splintered expanses between them and home, making a kind of tenuous land. Through flurries and a sudden whiteout, the tin can plane wobbles in. Alone on the tarmac, I find my luggage. In case, a suit inside. Under red-eye light of pop machine and wall-mounted TV, the coffee is burnt and tepid as I grip the key to a rented car. In a small-town touch, they leave the trunk open for your luggage. The drive ahead I'll spend with two hands on the wheel, the brights on and lighting up the hurtling snow as the wind whistles in the car's bad window seals, and I scan the radio for anything. But before all this, I fumble coins into the payphone. Too many rings as I watch the trunk fill with snow. In the cold earpiece, the news is good enough. Part 2. Who remembers the last time they stood still as dusk came on? Who shifted in the wind when it stirred them and hesitated at doors when their head creaked on their neck? Who felt the weight of the pencil in their peacoat pocket before consulting a plat map pinned to the wall? Who then walked along a long slate of wooden slats to reach the river, to make the lake, to meet the water?
Thank you so much.
where our hope hangs like a flannel from a nail. That was the line that I was like, this is a really good poem. I just kept thinking about it and coming back to it. Thank you so much, Benj. I hope that, is it a book? I assume there's a book coming out. There will be a book coming out.
I hope so.
It'll come out. I have confidence. Yeah. All right. Our next reader is KateLynn Hibbard, who I have read with on this very stage before the world shut down. KateLynn Hibbard's books are Sleeping Upside Down, Sweet Weight, and Simples, winner of the 2018 Howling Bird Press Poetry Prize. Editor of When We Become Weavers, Queer Female Poets on the Midwest Experience. She teaches at Minneapolis College and lives with many pets and her spouse Jan in St. Paul. Please welcome KateLynn.
Hi. What's that? Too tall. Oh, that's hot.
Hold on, oh, Mark. There we go.
Okay, that's good.
This is a crowd.
I know.
Yeah, for
Thank you
poetry.
for coming. Poetry. Yeah, I couldn't decide what necklace to wear, so I wore 3 of them. And I also couldn't decide what poems to read, so I brought a bunch of them, but I won't read them all. I will start with the one that won the contest. So, how many people in here drink coffee? Yes. And what do you do with that little bit of coffee that's left over that you can't quite drink? But
I don't know what you're talking about.
maybe you don't have that little bit left over. Well, this poem is about what my mother did with that little bit of coffee, and it's called How I Became a Feminist. Because she could not bear to waste a thing, my mother always drank the coffee dregs straight from the pot and dribbled on her chin, then wiped it up and called herself a pig. She didn't want to wash another cup or spend another minute at the sink, or so she said. I think she lapped it up bitter and cold to brace her for the work of putting all our needs before her own, a woman's lot when living on a farm. And though she always said pig with a grin, it pains me still. I take mine good and warm and stay away from longings that conspire to come between a woman and desire. I wish I could write a sonnet every day, but no. It's too hard. So a bunch of these poems are from my manuscript in progress, which is called Unblossoming, which is about fun things like aging and dying, but also sex. Deflowering. How sad and strange the name for that rupture. Stripping the bloom from the vine, the plucking off, a beheading, really. As if once it is taken, the value of the plant is less. It withers, dies. It hurt, I do remember that. The darkening blossom in my underpants, and the boy I was with, it meant nothing to him. My flower as inconvenience, as obstacle to his pleasure. Since being the girl, of course, I wouldn't have any. And if I did, I must be slutty. And so I had to take my place in the hierarchy of good girl sluts and bad girl sluts. And oh, my dear, dear girl, I see you rushing off to lay with him on the cold vinyl back seat of that dark blue Chevy. And I wish you an armful of blood red roses, their thorn-laden faces fierce in their opening, the petals magically intact. This poem has my friend Michael in it, who came here to see me read. And it also has many German words that I am going to pronounce really badly. So I'm sorry, but not that sorry. The purest joy. The other night over cocktails, my friend Michael toured us through his latest European adventures. Imperial Palace, Schönbrunner Gardens, the Kunsthistorisches Museum with its collection of Caravaggios and Rubens. But what struck him most was this: the well-dressed Austrian man who let the elevator door slam shut in the face of a clumsy American woman as she fumbled with her many bags, her white sneakers too bright in the tasteful gloom of the museum foyer, and the man saying, "Schadenfreude is the purest joy." All I could think of was how small and mean that feeling must be. I have been that woman, but I have also been the woman in the back of the elevator who chuckled, averted her gaze, did nothing to try to keep the door open. Don't you think confession's good for the soul? That's how all the Catholics make their, you know what they do. Okay. So, dead, grief, time, damn. I don't know.
You promised sex.
More sex?
You promised.
I did. Okay, now I'm going to read a couple poems from my other books, which, in case you either don't know me or I haven't already forced you to buy one, are here.
How much are they?
Well, people don't have checks anymore, so if you have cash, you can give me whatever cash you have. Or I have Venmo. At least $10. Okay, so this poem is timely, even though it's written about something that happened in the 1800s, because birth control. So this is based on a letter that a man wrote to his wife about dealing with her unplanned pregnancy. The fix. Oh, and I wanted to read something from this book because one of the other poets' poem was about prairie flower. So that's that, the fix. Uriah had been gone a good 3 weeks when she started to think she might be in a fix again. Already there were the other 2 babes, and no work for him, accounting for his month-long trip to Grove City. He wrote back, said, "Don't stay with your folks in Minnesota too long. You might use some other mild medicine, but nothing very strong." The broker said tansy tea would be best. You will likely find some growing along the roadside. Steep together its bright yellow buttons and jagged leaves until the camphor smell almost overcomes you. And she had heard of 2 women who had died drinking it. Folks said they took it for the hysteria, but everyone knew what that meant. Take a cup in the morning and another at night, while fasting until you are healed of your affliction. She looked at her sleeping children, held the cup to her lips. I don't know if she actually drank it, but I'm guessing she did. So it's probably time, yes?
You have time for like one more.
One more?
One more?
Okay, all right. So this is like kind of my free bird poem. I always
Bird.
read Crackhead Tim. Yeah, so this is in my other book called Sweet Way, and this is about neighbors and stuff. Crackhead Tim. He lived next door with Vicky the drunk, who screamed their sad business all over the street. They ate carry-out every day, but nobody's lawn looked better than theirs. On good days, we'd see Tim pushing the mower, his pale skin almost gelatinous in the sun. He was the kind of guy who looked worse when he smiled. Their bedroom window was so close to ours, sometimes it felt like we all slept together, especially those nights they fought, which was often. And she'd throw him out, and he'd pound on the door, bellowing her name until the cops came and hauled him away. One winter night, I woke up fast with a bright light shining in my eyes, a car engine revving in the street, and don't you dare, motherfucker, don't you dare. I thought he wouldn't, I thought he couldn't, but he drove his car up over their lawn, smack into the house. And after the crash and splinter and thud, he spun his wheels a while in the begonias under the snow. And I thought, damn, I could never love a woman that hard.
Hey, Caitlin, is that an important little bit of paper here
No,
that fell out of your?
no.
It's a mystery paper.
It's a mystery. I think it's just a placeholder.
Someone can write a poem about the mystery paper, or write a poem on the mystery paper.
A haiku, maybe.
Yeah, that would fit for sure. Caitlin, I've always been a fan of your work. And you know, I'm a formalist, so when I came across your sonnet, and a feminist sonnet, it's like the two things I love the most. Formal poetry and feminism. So I love that poem. I love all your poems. So if you haven't bought a book of Caitlin's yet, I think you should. You will not regret it. And I should say that I think after the next poet, we'll take a short intermission. And there you will have the opportunity to buy some of the books for sale or refresh your beverages. But our next reader is Mary Kay Rummel. Mary Kay Rummel's 9th poetry book, Nocturnes, Between Flesh and Stone, has been recently published by Blue Light Press of San Francisco. Her first book, This Body She's Entered, won a Minnesota Voices Award from New Rivers Press. The Lifeline Trembles won the Blue Light Award from Blue Light Press, and Love in the End was a Chapbook Award winner from Bright Hill Press. Many of her poems have appeared in St. Paul Almanac. Mary Kay has read her poems in many venues in the US, England, and Ireland. She was born in St. Paul and grew up in the West 7th neighborhood. Yay, I used to live there. She lives now in Fridley and is retired from UMD. She is also Poet Laureate Emerita of Ventura County, California. That's cool. And spends part of each year with family in California. So please welcome Mary Kay.
I got it. Okay.
And if you'd like a chair, we can
Oh,
definitely
no,
take that.
no, I just was worried about my bad knee. I should start with a poem about my bad knee to explain it. Okay, this is great. You're a great audience. I was thinking, this is my first in-person reading in like 2.5 years. Yeah, those are not 2 years that I could afford to lose. You know? So I appreciate the opportunity to read, and you know, this is a great venue and a great audience. And I'm going to start with the poem that won, and it's set in West 7th Street, where I grew up. And I'm going to follow it with a couple of other poems that are set in the same place, the same time, that were in St. Paul Almanac. I thought that'd be good.
Yeah.
And then I'll end with a couple others. So we'll have kind of a St. Paul focus. I'm moving. My husband and I are moving from Fridley back to St. Paul. And 6 blocks from where I lived, like a mile from where he lived. And I said, oh, that's what happens. That's what happens. So, so this poem is the one that won. It's called Diagrammer of Sentences. In the corner of the living room, huddled over my pink wooden desk, brothers fighting, mother angry because I'm not peeling potatoes. I'm wandering in English homework. Find the stately subject, a proper start. What am I, subject or predicate? Find the object, its leaping, chaotic verb. 7 of us crammed together in that small house, bracing against winter winds, luminous ice tricks. Modify, change, shape. Could words change my family? There is language here, Celtic roots, English derivations, West 7th slang. My mother first gave me words, but now when I write my own spells, she reads my journal, destroys my grave erotic notes. Wind bangs against the house in conditional tense. Cold sets in our pavid bones. My mother, Argus eyes, worry scribble her face. Loneliness, a cave in both of us. I want, I pray, I think. How to parse a labyrinth of longing. I take my pen and diagram, a live tree, a sideways tree, a sentence all my own. I lived another time, in a deep world beyond myself. I will live there again. So I'm going to read a poem from my doctrine's book that's also set in the 7th. And I'm going to find a page.
How much is the book?
Oh, I'm selling, I have 2 books here, this one and the one before, and it's $10. Roaring up West 7th. Along the Mississippi, sagging houses, narrow streets, discharged teens born during the war or just after. Lilacs droop over sidewalks, scent the edges of drive-in parking lots. Saddle shoes crush fallen blossoms, scarves circle our junior high faces, bright lips, cheeks, nylon knots on our chins, badges of sophistication. We eye the boys in fishtail Chevys, watch older girls balancing trays, root beer, burgers, deep fried onions. In a cloud of greasy vapor, motorcycles roar up West 7th from the Harley Davidson shop. My disbelieving stare trails Cookie and Rose, their short bleached hair and leather jackets, arms wrapped around the waists of favorite bikers, while crows and bare oaks intone, "You can't, you can't." One night, Big Dave offers me a ride on his huge black Harley, my long braid flying in that joyous wind. I cling to him, senses open like mouths, shouting, yes, yes to the long ton of the road, lolling out before me. Yes to West 7th transformed to ridge, across hills, a shining Aegean below. Yes, to a white trail up mountains where moose dance through drifts of snow. Yes, to the clouds blooming lavender. Yes, to grand bazaars and cobbled streets. No to staying home, my mother's anger, my brother's fights, my pulse like a stadium of fists, punching yes, yes, yes. Later I walked with Kathy and Sharon, past dark, crowded bars, ankle deep in tenderness and lilacs, the roar of Harleys in my blood. Here's another West Seventh poem. I dedicate it to my brother Jerry, who died not too long ago. And this is his story. Came from him. River cop. It's true though. The department didn't know what to do with his large hands in deep anger. So they gave him a boat and the river to patrol. Uncharted territories, nude swimmers, drunken boaters, and rope swings to cut down every night. They were startled by his zeal, the parade of nude boys, each day's catch shivering in blankets because he hid their clothes. My mother rode the bus down to the station to claim my speechless brothers. The Mississippi cut through sandstone cliffs, wild bottoms of Old St. Paul. The river cop's boat, a moving target, as he chugged up and down river, waving his gun, threatening to shoot stray dogs, swimmers, hunters who slog through mud and reeds every day to check their traps. From the shelter of the river caves, boys stoned his boat. But when they saw the river cop, who couldn't swim, floundering in deep water, they rescued him. One summer night, Bill and Jerry dragged a small Civil War cannon all the way to the caves below Otto Street, where they loaded nuts and bolts. Soon metal struck the river cop's boat, a hollow clang echoing through the river chamber, shaking beer bottles off the shelves of West 7th Street bars. Sirens filled the streets, but the police refused to chase kids into caves where in the dark, under garlands of bats, they toasted a new street legend. Boys who would soon die in Vietnam broke free of cramped yards, small lives, never naming the violence that cut sweet and murky as the Mississippi through their lives. And this, the pandemic kept bringing this poem to mind. So I wrote it, this experience from another pandemic. It's called Fair. There was an old yellow streetcar. There were so many chances before us. There were 3 steps in a window seat. There were waves of heat in August air. Chance was wide open. The streetcar stopped at the gates. Waves of heat rolled over us. It was kids for free day at the fair. We got off at Como and Snelling. The gates waited. Coins in our pockets, a feast of booths before us. We were full and forever, and it was free this day. Dreams were simple, a necklace strung bead by bead. We walked the streets of the fair, our coins heavy. Our parents worried about polio, iron lungs, money, bombs. Our dreams were beads fingered one by one. The life we didn't know was the one we wanted. Parents worried their fingers, polio and bombs. What would we give now for the fare of innocence? The life we didn't know was what we wanted. Now what would we give for the smells of sweat and dust? There were 3 iron steps in a window seat. The life we didn't know was the one we wanted. What wouldn't we give to see the yellow streetcar coming toward us through waves of August heat? And I'm going to end with a poem about the non-humans that are also very much of our past and present. These last couple are in Nocturne's book. Vanishing. We live by the, I was going to say this was in the Cracked Walnut anthology a few years ago. So those of you who are Cracked Walnut people, thank you. Vanishing. We live by the mercy of things no longer with us. Red wings in their swale of reeds, the waterfall grown small, creeping its way up the rock face. Wild ranging roses hidden in bogs, pollen laid by for eternity. Weed in the haze and the heat on its way down the rootstock. The ponderous winds move slowly and sullenly, the stuff of dreams, while the earth crackles like peeling canvas, and everything a human being is made of sifts in air. Dove blue plums blown to feather particles. Gray-white bindweed crumbles beneath clay, where monarch, starling, and lark are lost for all time. What will we be when the glaciers are gone? Flood echo and fire silence. Let us see with a kind of open, wide grief. After images shape the wind. The disappeared where they were born and died, shining all around us, the way burned out starlight shows for a time in the eyes of the living. Stool. Yes. Great.
Thank you so much, Mary Kay. That was wonderful. I, of course, love the poem that I picked for the contest. The line about the labyrinth of longing, it's like very good. Also love the pantoum that you read. I was like, the form people in the room know what's going on here. So yeah, that was super awesome. And again, I can't help but just love form poems. So we're gonna take a break. 15 minutes, Tony? How long?
Yes, it will be 15 minutes.
Yes,
Hold on
15
a second.
minutes. But
Wait a
there's more. Something else is happening.
I gotta do my spiel.
Oh, there's a spiel. So Tony's gonna come up for a spiel.
Wasn't, sorry, I would have been more prepared. Hi, everybody having fun? Okay, so as Katie mentioned, this is part of Cracked Walnut, part of the League of Minnesota Poets, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. We make our money on donations. So if you feel like donating, it is a free show. You are not under any obligation to put anything in here. But if you'd like to, we would really appreciate it. So I'm gonna pass it around. Put something in if you can. If you can't, and we'll be back in 15.
Woo! And you can buy some books.
And bye books. Hello. Hello. We're gonna get started again. Before I bring Katie back up here to put on the rest of the show, I want to tell everybody that next month on October 19th, when our next show is, we are featuring the unofficial official book release of Annette Gagliardi, who's right over here. So if you want to come and see a book release, please be here. You have Laura Lanik and who was the other one? Linda White are her openers, and if you haven't seen any of these poets, they're all very, very good. So please come back. And without further ado, I'm stalling for time because Katie's writing in a book.
I'm signing a book,
And
sorry.
she's citing her excellent book. If you don't have Katie's book, by the way, you should buy it because it's amazing.
Except you can't, because I just got the last one.
You're not gonna get more?
I mean, I'll order more. I don't have any more on me.
Okay, so they can get a hold of you and get more books. I'm like, this is crazy. You're not gonna get more of those. I have books if you're interested in me, but you haven't heard me do any poetry, so I don't know why you would be. But I'm online. I'm here a lot. So, okay, Katie looks
Okay, I'm
ready.
ready. I'm ready.
Okay, here comes Katie. Katie Vagnino, everybody.
I'm gonna stall for a minute here because I put all the bios in an email, and now it's saying this message cannot be displayed because a problem repeatedly occurred, which is really problematic. I can see like a preview of the email, and then I click on it, and it doesn't like me.
Do you want to read another poem while I mess with that?
I can look up their.
I mean, hang on, no, I'm trying to get creative here.
Let's see who finds it first.
This is really sad and annoying. Why would that happen?
Somebody play the Benny Hill music while we do this.
Right?
Okay, so who's next?
It's Leslie Thomas,
She's like my great.
and
She's
she's
an aunt with
amazing.
Larry
I
Little.
cannot believe every other email is loading perfectly fine.
You know that we're kind of related, me and Leslie Thomas.
Oh, I found it. It's working now. We're back in business. Okay.
And I got there.
Leslie Thomas writes from her home in Minnesota. She coordinated a creative writing project dedicated to the Mississippi River with the St. Paul nonprofit organization. Her article, Writing the River, was featured in University of Minnesota's Open Rivers Journal. Recent poetry publications include the anthologies Planet in Peril from Fly on the Wall Press, Paws Healing the Earth from Riverpaw Press, and The Trumpeter, Journal of Ecosophy.
Wow.
Leslie holds a master's in science in environmental history from the University of Edinburgh. Cool. She's inspired by the places she loves: prairie and woodland trails, rivers, her gardens, and the landscapes of Minnesota, Alaska, and Connemara, Ireland. Okay, I pronounced that right. Yay! Please welcome Leslie.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. I have 4 poems to read. I'm a little nervous. I actually have not read at something like this in a long time, so
There are no
bear with me.
consequences.
I'm like, I'm shaking all over. I'm going to begin with a poem that I submitted to St. Paul Almanac's Breakthrough Contest. And I have to say, I'm thrilled. That was the 4th poem who won. When I opened up Katie's email, I was delighted, overwhelmed, thrilled. And then I had to say, wait, weren't there 3? So I'm so excited that you went further, Katie. With my poems, you'll notice a history theme. I love reading old diaries, letters, and sifting through files at history summits. I didn't start out to write about history, but it just started happening. And much of my poetry explores changes over time in nature and human experiences. So my first poem starts out with a diary entry by Mitchell Jackson that he wrote from his farm in Lakeland, Minnesota on June 24th, 1854. Some of these flowers must be preserved, not that they can ever be made any more beautiful or arranged with any better taste than now, but this great prairie flower garden, as arranged by the hand of the Creator, is now exposed to the plow, and the lowing herds are already making their paths and selecting their shades and watering places. And it is plain that the native beauty must give way to the artificial. Restoring prairie. You were right. We plowed so well. We stripped the earth of nearly everything life-giving. But today, close to your old farm, prairie ironweed blooms purple flowers. Their tall stems and pointed leaves announce the ground in transition again. Corn and Kentucky bluegrass have long withered my senses. In those fields, birds don't sing like they do here. Now I understand why it was hard to say goodbye to flowers. So long to prairie chickens dancing. Mitchell, did you cry when the last roots ripped from the tip of your shovel, heavy with black soil clinging on? And what will we write for the unsung deaths today? The seeds too late to save. For them, I grieve. Among autumn's big blue stem, drunk in coppery red, as wind swirls cotton tops off open milkweed pods. I bow to the bitter acorns, anchoring to the ground, forage only forgiveness under open bur oak arms. And my next poem was included in a project that Kate was talking about that I co-founded with St. Paul's awesome Friends of the Mississippi River, called Right to the River. This poem that I'm about to read next was also inspired by historic writing and environmental restoration. The location is an old neighborhood in St. Paul, on East Side, where one of my families once lived. The old neighborhood that no longer exists was called Connemara Patch. Today it's located within Sweet Hollow Park and the restored Bruce Benton Nature Sanctuary. The historic writing that I'll read here in just a moment, a portion of it, is from my relative, whose name was William. I found his letters in a dusty file of the Minnesota History Society labeled Minnesota State Training School for Boys, Inmate Case Files and Commitment Papers. I was so moved by his eloquent writing that I wrote a poem for him. It begins with an excerpt of William's letter, written in 1912. He is explaining to a judge why he dropped out of school at age 9. At school, I wasn't happy. Why, you may ask? Because I was a child of the slums, unmannered, ill-bred, badly attired. I knew I was not one of them. Grasping the baton, weary yet resilient, like the seaweed they harvested off rented strips of rock and water. A family cleaved from ragged shore, with hope stowed, folktales cast away, trust was placed on the Atlantic. Settling by a muddy river, they swept dirt off city streets, laid railroad ties, and watched St. Paul grow tall around them. High bridges arching to dreams they stored in root cellars for their children's grandchildren. Why, you may ask? Because hunger ebbs slowly from the hollow. Here, at restored sanctuary today, between bluff and concrete pillar, hawk soar and Juneberry thrives, where once there was bull thistle. Sun welcomes a daylit stream, and I feel the umbilical of glacial melt. So with gratitude, mallet and chisel, I engrave into aged wooden trestle. Dear William, writer of poverty, son of resistance, you are one of me, and we belong. My next poem was inspired by a Prescott, Wisconsin newspaper in the 1860s, where the joy of drilling a new water well was quickly dampened by confusion. Why women went to the river on wash day. Each week, I toss sorted clothes into a machine, make simple decisions regarding temperature and spin cycles, then push a button to start. A loud buzzing noise tells me when it's done. Speed and convenience, what matters today? Going back in time to a terrace above a steamboat landing, townsmen take turns digging into light brown lusk, alluvium, and gravel, until water fills the hole, running hard and cold like this western frontier edge. A new well flows for each household, but the town women still prefer the river. They gather on sandy shores, unlace weary leather shoes, and roll up long cotton tresses. As bare skin slips into soft river water, mud slithers between their toes. They laugh and cry, shedding secrets while scrubbing shirts, until their sorrows and sins float away. My last poem was inspired by an old barn I'm always drawn to. You know this barn, the one tucked into the brush, leaning over with the roof caving in, on 40 acres. The engine followed oxen's heavy cue, buffalo's buoyant prairie print, a conveyor belt grind of glacial ice. Metal tines twirling on rubber tires, crushed clod and clay. Disc chiseled stalks mix with manure and NPK. In a corner, red paint clings to hard pine. The old barn sinks into switchgrass, goldenrod, and common buckthorn. They followed the iron horse in 1888, from coast to coast, always a step behind. Now, ghosts ring dinner bells, fling open doors, dreaming inside this fallen frame. Against rows and rows of corn, their voice remains. Thank you.
I have to say, as I'm listening to all these poems, I'm like, man, I have good taste. I'm going to bring up our final reader, and I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It is really wonderful to see so many people here supporting poetry and local poets, buying books. That's just like really exciting. And it has been, for some of us, we're still getting back into the hang of being with each other in the spaces together and sharing our work. So glad to see everyone here tonight. It really means a lot. And it was just such an honor to judge this contest and see how these poets interpreted the theme, which was pretty loose. And just breakthrough was kind of the key word, but it could be, an epiphany kind of a breakthrough, plants breaking through soil kind of a breakthrough, radio station breaking through the static kind of a breakthrough. So, I hope we're going to do the contest again this spring. So keep an eye out for that. Again, St. Paul Almanac. These poets here tonight all entered and won a contest, and their work, some of them have had work published in the Almanac. We have a new book coming out next month, October 20th. So please check out St. Paul Almanac on Facebook or Instagram or online, and you can find information about that launch party and hear poems in the new book. So our final reader tonight is Diane, okay, I don't want to butcher your name, Jarvenpa? Jarvenpa. Did I do it right? Yeah. Kind of? Okay. Diane is the author of The Way She Told Her Story, The Tender Wild Things, Divining the Landscape, Swift Bright Drift, and Ancient Wonders, The Modern World. She has received the Midwest Independent Publishers Association Award and an Artist Initiative grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board. She is a teaching artist with the Alzheimer's Poetry Project Minnesota. She is also a singer-songwriter performing under the name Diane Jarvenpa, and her website is www.dianejarvenpa.com. So please welcome Diane.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so happy to be included in this evening tonight and to share the stage with these wonderful poets. It's an honor. So my St. Paul Almanac poem is kind of a poem in response to how many times I faced my stove and feeling very lost in the past 2 years, as so many of us probably have. And it refers to a specific thing called the röisleipä, which is a Finnish type of bread. Salvation of bread. Every time sorrow is a rock to the skull, I chant of a stove, its belly all fire blown, as I beg my any ancestor, tell me how it's done. Listen, they say, kick fear into air with rye meal. Deny loss as you feed wild yeast. Accept tears with more salt, more water. Mix into slurry, into dough, into dark disc bread. To break open, to taste sun. The center hole through which one can finally see blue sky. I'm going to do some family, that's a sort of a family poem, and this is also a family poem. I come from a bunch of Finns, and we're kind of known for our idea of dreams. This is called American Dream. Mine was a family of lukewarm consumers. I was told by ardent junior high schoolers which were the right jeans, best hiking shoes, proper flannel, optimum rucksack. It was the 70s. Did I have these? To splurge, we ate at third-tier fast food joints. Our Rambler, a humble brown to subterfuge rust. Best time often spent as a family was going to the library. My parents were modest, bordering on pathologically shy. They spoke to each other in a tongue historically built from sung poetry. Their American dreams involved praying to all things found in forests, taking the Tao of suffering and the garden of never fitting in and building a mysterious melancholy. Where then Does capitalism fit into the life of any child of these people? A junkie for reverie, for sure. An inheritance of paper in all its many forms. Piles of moldering boxes of music and books left to fend for themselves amongst basement spiders is their testimony. If my parents were to share a symbol of a flower as partners, it would be the water lily. My father, all river, creek, pond, his name meaning lake. Walking hip deep, boots all mud, focused on beginning, the start of things, the roots. My mother, all upward motion, opening to any damn sun she could find to speak into the sky, sparks of written word. Two elements, water to air, their dream. So, 20 years ago today, there was Sergeant Pepper, but 20 years ago today, I was the first time I got to meet my daughter in China. And so, so last year she left for college, and so this was a poem I wrote for her. And when she left, it was at the same time, she went to Chicago, it was at the same time that the emergence of the periodical cicadas decided to come upon us all. To shine an answer, she leaves for college. And this is how, it's the eventual flight of all our children, right? I cracked open my motherhood and out flew my daughter. She had wings, a tattoo, and was singing stoned at the nail salon. Off she went over the pigeons, quadrupled up on the freeway lights to keep warm those hosts of plague and crispy skin on French skillets. She banked over the single deer, self-deposited on a city street, leaping over entire lawns and plastic kid toys. She flew over way too many cornfields, a barometer of America's love for sweet syrup and Republicans. Slowed her speed over blue highways and pie shops, lazily circled over rivers that once held trout. Hovered over county fairs with carnies that guessed what your kid will do after high school, college, military training, breakout bands. Fast past deep forests thick with pine that seemed to misdirect, but really are muses for the natural order of things. She met up with egrets, precise and brilliant, like if Emily Dickinson could fly. Follow the updraft of eagles, masters of landscapes and air. Onward across shopping malls, vast ornaments of leisure and hunger gone bad. She hustled and she floated above it all. Finally, she entered the time and place of the cicadas, swarms of fat bodies singing their buzzsaws into thick warm air, telling all about those 17 years in union with the earth, waiting, swearing it will be soon. Yes, it will. Just one more argument with that underground oblivion before it all split and the hot star poured over every lit wing. And there she landed with her minimalist adult signature and those piled up years of tender field books, common sense words written under the incandescent lamp of a pandemic. All that to climb out of the complicated casings of childhood and feed this son like a thing to eat, a thing to hoard, and enjoy the holy praise of this newly magnificent den. So I just have one more poem, and it's dedicated to my, to trees. Has a little epigraph that says, "But then I will no longer be me, but the forest." It wasn't a music room, but it had the same unscrolling of subtle notes that hang in the air, that change your breathing. It wasn't a church, but there was a query of spirit in the way of prayers waving. It wasn't a boathouse, yet water was clearly part of its desires. A deep, secretive thirst lifted through the bones. It wasn't a season, but it did invite green singing of birds, seemed to intend that yellow be the color we slip over any new sorrow. It wasn't immortal, but being there beside it made you feel like a certain kind of labor took place you will never come to understand. An unequivocal wisdom, a language unknown. It wasn't a bridge, yet any child knew an invitation was being offered, connecting one world to another. It was a birch tree, planted by a 45-year-old man on a slight hill in his suburban front yard, answering the call of his ancestors 4,000 miles away, who were known to take the bark to soften into the shape of shoes, bundle into tiny leaves to set over hot rocks, drink the sap in healing tea. My father dug a birch tree hole, his body remembering something long lost as he knelt there in the dirt. And he filled it with expectation of something bigger, something fluent, a bit of myth to pass by each day on his way to work, something pure, something gone wild.
Thank you, Diane. That was awesome. I also want to check out your singer-songwriters. I mean, I imagine you're an amazing songwriter because you're an amazing poet, so I'm excited to check that out. Let's have another round of applause for all of our poets. Really wonderful. We have such a thriving, vibrant literary community here in the Twin Cities, and it's a fun community to be a part of. I'm always just so impressed by all the creativity and artistry, and this is always so good for my soul to come to this reading, and it happens every month. So I hope some of you will come back, and yeah, I hope all of you will come back, exactly. And I think in lieu of open mic, we're just gonna have a little more kind of hangout time. If you didn't get a chance to buy a book, there are still books to be bought.
And dirty dishes go in these things.
Okay, and dirty dishes go in those things. And there's still this little piece of paper here on the floor, if someone wants to write a poem on it. But thank you all so much for coming. Hope to see you here again and at the Almanac launch party on October 20th. So thanks so much.
And thanks for me too. Thanks for coming.